Purim Sameach. Hope everyone's doing well. This year, well, you can't really tell right now from the costume, but theoretically speaking, my family is dressed up as Canadians. It's a hockey jersey. Yes, it's the Rangers, but also says Gretzky on the back, so it fits many of the other things. Moshe Enismore, Baruch Hashem, good things. We're living through crazy times right now. Things that are unimaginable, unfathomable, and I can only imagine from the reality that we're seeing life right now, from our prism, how Mordechai and Esther and the Jews of Shushan could have been living their life, thinking to themselves, Haman's crazy, he's tyrannical, no one's going to stop him, there's no army, there's no armada, there's nothing. Like, what's coming after them? Who's going to do anything about that? Seemingly nobody. The king even gave a seal of approval. The West had given Iran the seal of approval for decades on end, saying, don't worry about it, we'll just give you some more money, pilots of money, whether it be $1 billion or $100 billion under Joe Biden. For years, we've been thinking to ourselves, you know what, they're just getting crazier. This ring of fire that Khamenei had created to destroy Israel, and what Nasrallah had said with regards to the spider's nest, like, lo and behold, from COVID to where we are now is a different world. From the war that had started in Russia 4 years ago, Russia and Ukraine 4 years ago, would begin a domino effect, which took Russia out of the ability to help Iran, led eventually to other events happening in the world, like Hamas deciding, with the Sinwar deciding, you know what, we're going to attack early, not wait for Hezbollah. To eventually Hezbollah saying, okay, if they started, we have to attack also. To us eventually invading Lebanon. So 2.5 years of war later, the Ayatollah is gone. Sinwar is gone. Nasrallah is gone. Syria is no longer recognizable to what it used to be. The Syrian army is defeated on all levels. Yes, they're rebuilding a country. We'll see what happens there. But the reality on a geopolitical level is a different ballpark. And one of the things that we need to contemplate on, from Truma and Tetzaveh, our Parshiot, talking about the Mishkan, was V'shachanti b'tocham, how Kadosh Baruch Hu always had a goal. For us to live in reality where Hashem was there in our lives, present, and our job was to understand and recognize how Kadosh Baruch Hu was there. That is literally the story of Purim. One of the things that David Foreman discusses in his book, As to the Queen You Thought You Knew, I believe I said the title correctly. He says, why are we going to name it Purim? Really? We're going to talk about the mechanism of destruction towards us as the name of our celebration? And he explains that, in short, that the whole idea of Purim, Pur, it's so random. Like, God is not involved in this equation. HaMelech is the closest thing we have to Hashem's recognition being said or stated in this entire Megillah. Now, lo and behold, Truma and Tetzaveh highlight precisely the reality of how, A, when we're building the Mishkan, how it's supposed to look. B, how the Begadim are supposed to look when the Kohanim are doing the Avodah. And one of the things that struck me really, really intensely before we read Parshat Zachor, that same on Shabbos, was how on the katef, on the shoulders, were supposed to be stones that had the Shemot of Am Yisrael, that had to be Lefanai Tamid. They always had to be there. And it's like, you already have every individual name on the Choshen. There's no need to have these Avnei Shoam that are from Mishpat on your. Not why are they there? And I believe, in my mind, the reason they're there is because there, actually, all the names are together on each side of the shoulders. The shoulders are what hold you up, they're to support you. And practice speaking, rather than us being focused on being individuals, which the Choshen represents our each in unique individual stone, our own unique talents. You know, like the development in the Midbar when we were marching, our encampment was each shevet unique with each according to its degel, according to their flag. The Kohen Gadol is going to into the Kodesh HaKodashim. He needs to recognize each person's uniqueness, but also the klaliut, how everything comes together. Yes, he won't forget who he's serving because he has Kodesh Hashem on his metzach. He's not going to forget that. It's going to be right there in front of him with the tzitz. But now turning that back into Shabbat Zachor, remembering Amalek, the whole idea for Amalek, according to the Chazal, Rashi is one of the famous ones who talk about the idea that Amalek represents represents safek, doubt. And lo and behold, the Kohen Gadol needs to have no doubts when he walks into the Kodesh HaKodashim who he's dealing with and who he represents, who he is. He has to have clarity. The Kotzker Rav always says a Jew walks around with two things in his pockets. I'm dust and dirt. Like, who am I? I'm nothing. but also b'shvili nivra olam, the world was created for me. The Kohen Gadol has to recognize, on the one hand, he represents Am Yisrael, at the same time, he's a lowly but significant individual. Purim is precisely the message of us being excellent, of us serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, again, re-establishing our connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the greatest of ways of our own choice. Kimu v'kiblu masha kiblu kvar. Am Yisrael decided again to re-establish taking the Torah seriously. But one thing that didn't transpire at the end of the last Purim story was akate avde achashveronon. We can't say full halom on Purim because we didn't complete the mission by going back to Eretz and build the base of Mikdash. Right now we're living times of Geula, in absolute times of Geula without doubts. There's zero doubts. How it's unfolding, why it's unfolding this particular way, I can't answer this question. That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But I for sure know, there is no doubt in my mind, it's very clear HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in charge. It's very clear HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running the show. There is no way for us to explain anything happening around us without it being very obvious that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one orchestrating every single piece of this puzzle. We should all be zochet to see the miracles in our lives, to see the bracha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us. And even when things are challenging, even when things are down, and even when things are trying, there's people being killed, unfortunately from the ICBMs. There are people who have been wounded from the incoming rockets. There have been sirens and air raids. There have been soldiers killed from the American armed forces. Countries are being attacked right and left. Hezbollah still exists. Hamas still exists. And we have to remember that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who's leading the charge. And as much as we think Achashverosh is in charge, as much as we might think that Trump is in charge, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Hamelech, no one else. But Afochu, every reality we thought existed is all under Hashem's control. Everything can be turned over in a moment. Everything's all going to be dangerous, it's horrible, what do we do? The pit we have in our stomach, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in charge. And lastly, one of the reasons we go ad lo yada, until we don't know, we can't recognize the difference between Baruch Mordechai and Ar Haman, less about the drinking. It's about us recognizing a reality that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in charge of everything. We do not know what's good and bad objectively because our eyes are tinted with our own vision and our own perspective. But we have to recognize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in charge. May we be zocheh to usher in the ultimate geula. Purim Sameach.